Hello friends, and welcome to The Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you probably know that I am nearing the end of a series on my channel in which I'm exploring a way that I have rediscovered for myself of associating Tarot with esoterica. And what I mean by esoterica in this context is the Kabbalah and astrology in association with Tarot. And I've already done a number of videos. I started off with an overarching introduction video explaining why I am doing this, what I'm doing, my methodology. And then I did 3 videos on the major arcana. And then to begin the minor arcana, I did 2 more introduction videos. And then here we are now in the Suit of Swords. But just in case you have just found the channel, or just in case you have low confidence in your understanding of astrology or your understanding of astrology as it relates to Tarot, I highly recommend going to watch at least the introduction videos to this part of the series, to the minor arcana. So I'll put a card up here so that you can click on that and hop on over and see the explanation of what I'm doing with this portion of the Tarot. And friends, I highly recommend for those videos, and frankly for all of the videos in this series, that you watch with paper and pen in hand so that you can take notes. I also recommend that you watch the videos more than once in case you are interested in trying to apply these ideas to your own practice. Yeah, taking notes will be very, very beneficial. So, friends, we are about to begin the Suit of Swords. Are you ready? But before we do that, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you for joining me on this journey. That is a great blessing. Your attention energizes me. Also, thank you for doing those things that you do, for hitting the thumbs up button, for subscribing to the channel. Because of you, other people are able to find us and our community grows. And I'm grateful for you for doing those things. And also to those who comment in the comment section, I am eternally grateful because I love hearing from you. I love hearing your ideas. I love hearing anything. So thank you for doing those things as well. Now, friends, the Suit of Swords. The Suit of Swords is generally thought of as the least happy suit in the Tarot. When we think of the entire Tarot, the Suit of Swords has the greatest percentage of challenging cards in it. Cards like the 3 of Swords, the 10 of Swords, this 5 of Swords, even the 7 of Swords, the 8 of Swords, all of those look very, very challenging and difficult for us. In this video, you might get another perspective on the swords. We might be able to find a little more light in the sword suit. So, keep that in mind as we go through these rediscovered associations of astrology to the Suit of Swords. Yes? It might not be as challenging as we have often thought. And also allow yourself to as you follow along with me, to allow there to be some light, allow there to be some more positivity in this suit. Yeah, it could be a radical shift for you if you're an experienced reader to hear some of these wonderful positive things coming out of the Suit of Swords because we're so practiced in seeing the pain in the suit. So, I pray that you continue with an open heart and open mind and allow new possibilities. Does that make sense? So friends, we're going to start off. The cards I'm using. I am using a Smith-Waite deck and a TDM deck, Tarot de Marseille. The Tarot de Marseille deck, the cards will appear on this side of your screen. They are from a deck called de Jean Noblet. I think it was originally printed in 1750. My deck is not from 1750. It is a reproduction created by Flournoy, and there will be a link in the description box if you want to get that deck. The Smith-Waite deck, which should appear on this side, is a reproduction called the C.S.Tarot. It is by Conrad Stein, who has a Make Playing Cards shop, and there will be a link to his Make Playing Cards shop. He's got several decks. He's got several versions of the C.S.Tarot and other redrawings of the Smith-Waite deck. So I highly recommend both of these decks, both of these versions, and there will be links. So friends, here we go. We're starting off with the aces. Yes, the aces. Now, the aces are not generally thought of as being very challenging, but now we're associating these aces with cardinal air. Remember? The aces are all the first decan of cardinal air in the associations that I'm giving them now. Which means, because I'm reading with triplicities, that this is Venus in Libra. Yeah, so we have cardinal air's vital attributes entering our reading through these cards, and Libra is ruled by Venus. So what does that mean? Well, when the card is upright, and remember, I'm going to give you upright and reverse readings, but that doesn't mean I am forcing you or demanding or even hinting that you are not doing your job if you're not reading with reversals, right? I've mentioned this in other videos that even if you don't shuffle reversals into your deck, and even if you don't read with reversed cards, when we lay cards out on the table, especially if we've got a spread, there will often be cards that are in what we call shadow positions, positions of challenge or of difficulty or of problem, right? So in those cases, even if the card is physically upright, you might want to read with the reversal associations and attributes that I'm going to be helping you with in this video. Yes, does that make sense? Back to the upright. Yes? So Venus in Libra. An idea that you might want to associate with that is balanced judgment. Now, the Libra scales are balanced, right? And judgment is an activity of air, swords, the mind. Yeah, swords are mind, communication, vision, planning, all of those mental activities. Also listening is part of communication, speaking, writing. All of those things can be part of the suit of swords. So, balanced judgment. But also because there's that Libran quality, people who have Venus in Libra, that the beauty, the sensual, Venus's sensual enjoyment of balance, they like beautiful and comfortable environments. Yes? They have refined tastes. They need harmonious surroundings. They need balance in their environments as well. Because of Venus, they are eager for relationships and for partnerships. They are interested in influence, right? And that influence could be romantic, it could be gracious, it could be diplomatic, it could be cultured, it could be refined. Those are all attributes that influence can have, or qualities of influence. They might give over to attitudes and actions for the acceptance of others. Yeah, that Libran quality of anything to go along to get along, right? So they might give up their own ideas, their own desired actions to make other people happy so that relationships are good. That's something to think of with this card. Because we've got Venus in their domicile, and I'm deliberately trying to degender these planets, even though Venus is a feminine planet, I'm also going to try to degender the other ones, like Saturn and Jupiter, because while they are personified in gendered bodies, we have all of those qualities within all of us, right? So Venus in the domicile, because Venus is the ruler of Libra, we have the idea of mental balance, right? Clear perception of relationships and of proportion, right? This is bigger than that, or these things are equal, or there is less energy here and there's more energy there. The ability to see these balances and differences and the clear perception around that. Also, thought seeks fairness, right? We use our minds to find equality and fairness in our interactions and in society. And our ideas are formed through comparison, this and that. Comparing these things gives us our ideas, gives us our impressions that expand our understanding and our mental framework. And the question I might ask with these cards when they are upright is, what idea or insight is trying to begin? Because remember, aces, cardinal air, it's a beginning of ideas. It's a beginning of vision. It's the beginning of communication. Does that make sense? So instead of just the new idea, we've got these new ideas in relationship, in seeking balance, seeking harmony, seeking fairness. With the Venusian sense of beauty and taste, not only with the mouth, but taste as in style. Yes? Now, when the card is reversed, we might have the idea of our opinions becoming fixed. Think of that sword here, stabbing an idea and pinning it to the ground. So we might have, that might prompt us to have the need to receive and express love. Yeah? The need to love people as we find them. But instead of having that general desire and moving in that direction, there's the neediness of that. Do you understand that distinction? Venus is now in its similar on the other side of the ladder, which means Venus is now in Taurus. Remember, Venus is the ruler of both Libra and Taurus. So now we have what I like to think of as an airy Venus, a mindful, thinking Venus is now back in an earthy environment. So what happens? Our thoughts slow down into attachments. And maybe we become more attached to those thoughts. Our preferences harden in the earth, right? I like this, I only like this, I will not like anything else, right? We have difficulty letting go of old ideas. And we seek mental comfort over clarity. Sometimes thinking the new thought is disconcerting or uncomfortable. And so, no. I want to get my comfort is more important. Yes? And so when reversed, the question I might ask, and I like asking questions at the ends of all of this, of all of these segments, is what thought is forming but unclear or being repressed or rejected? Yeah? What forming thought is unclear, being repressed, or being rejected? Does that make sense? Okay, so here we go on to the twos. Yes, the twos, the balancing twos, the binary twos. And now the Two of Swords is keyed to the Saturn decan of Libra, or I should say, is keyed to the Aquarian decan of Libra. So it's Libra keyed to Aquarius, and that means we have Saturn, because Saturn is the ruler of Aquarius, we have Saturn in Libra. So we have the fixed aspect of mutable heirs, vital attributes entering our reading. And some ideas we might carry with that is deliberate awareness. Our awareness is focused by will. W-I-L-L, by will. So we might have some intuitive faculties becoming active here. But we also have good organization and good self-discipline with Saturn here in Libra. Right? The organization, the boxing boundaries, the discrepancies, the discipline of Saturn is entering our Libran atmosphere. We might understand more karmic justice and law. Every action has a reaction, right? Saturn likes to work things out when it gets airy. Yeah? So, equations. This plus this equals this. This multiplied by these things become that. Yeah? The square root of this emotional situation becomes this. This is derived from that, right? The equation part of our lives. And it's controlled by reason, of course, because this is an air suit. But because there's Saturn here, there could be some aggression. And it could all be some possessive sometimes. Yeah? Our minds become a little more aggressive and more progressive, because it's the Aquarian aspect of Libra. Perseverance is here. And so, it's perseverance to our own decisions. So we don't take orders well. We don't want other people to control us. Yes? And our minds are geared towards the scientific, and in a spiritual atmosphere that could direct us towards things like astrology. Yeah, the mathematical side of spirituality, you could say. Now, because we have the second decan of Libra, Libra's ruler Venus is now in its complement. Yeah, its partner's sign on the same side of the ladder, which means we've got Venus in Scorpio. And just in case you don't know what I just said, by Venus's partner, the same side of the ladder, remember that introduction video I described? That would be a good place to go check that out. So here we have Venus in Scorpio. Yeah? Because Scorpio is on the same side of the ladder of lights. And what does that mean? Our awareness is sharpened by tension. Now, Venus is not really that comfortable in her partner's domicile. Yes? So, to make herself able to navigate her partner's domicile, she sharpens up. And perception of underlying motives becomes stronger. What's going on beneath the surface? We can get a handle on that. And our thoughts engage with the complexity of situations. Instead of needing everything to be simple, we can do the work of navigating complexity and understanding complexity. And if there is a difficult truth to be observed, we can do it. We can acknowledge the difficult truth. We won't avoid it. And the question I might ask around these cards when they are upright is, how should I orient my thinking here? Where should I direct my thinking? Because my thinking is guided by my will. Now, when these cards are reversed, what do we have? Well, instead of deliberate awareness, we might start rushing things, right? We might try to rush to an end. Rushed thinking. And because of that need for speed, we might encounter some indecisiveness, right? Some analysis paralysis. Some of the attributes that a lot of people like to attribute to the Two of Swords now appear in full bloom. We might succumb to people-pleasing because we've still got Venus here. And we might feel a little overwhelmed by duty of relationships. Yeah? We might fear judgment. We might think we might be afraid of what other people are thinking about what we are thinking about. Now, when this card is reversed, we have Venus in detriment instead of complement, which means she is in her partner's sign on the opposite side of the ladder, which gives us Venus in Aries instead of Scorpio. Aries is impulsive, right? So when Venus goes in there, we have because this is airy Venus, right? In fiery Aries, we have mental impulsivity. Leaping to conclusions, perhaps. Leaping to decisions. We might react instead of reflect. Now, our mental state is, instead of taking in information and reflecting on it to come to a decision or to analyze it, we take it in and blah. Yes? We might make premature decisions because of that. And our ideas might be expressed without meditation, without rumination, without really considering what the effects of our thoughts are going to be on the situation, on other people, on ourselves. We might make decisions about something without considering it and get ourselves into trouble when these cards are reversed. And so the question I might ask when these are reversed is, what mental imbalance prevents my decision? Coming back into balance, finding the meditative space to make a decision with clarity can help when these cards are reversed. Okay? So, we're going on to the threes. Remember the threes. The heart stabbed, right? The heartbreak card. But is it going to be the heartbreak card now when we're working with a different set of astrological associations? Let's find out. So, because this is the third decan of Libra, we now have the mutable aspect of cardinal heirs, vital attributes entering our spread, entering our reading. Yeah, because this decan is keyed to Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. So we have Mercury in Libra. Mercury in Libra, which is interesting. And, I did not mention this before, but when we were looking at the twos, Saturn, something to remember is that Saturn's, exalted. Saturn is exalted in the two, in Libra, which means that there is a general happiness of Saturn being in, or not there is maybe happiness, but there is an exaltation of Saturn when that planet is in Libra. Yeah? So especially when the cards are upright, we get more positive attributes being expressed through that card. Okay, now back to the threes. We have Mercury in Libra. Some base idea that you might carry with you for reading this card is empathic clarity. Yes, because this card is upright and Mercury is in a Venusian sign. Yeah, there's some, Mercury can be more empathic, but also seeks clarity, empathic clarity. Now, Mercury in Libra expresses themselves with being able to write well in a broad spectrum of topics, environments, subjects, whatever. Yeah, anything from science to the arts, to literature, to also lecturing, writing and speaking as a lecturer as well is empowered by Mercury and Venus. We're adaptable to many different kinds of situations and types of people. Now we can get along with many people, intellectually especially. You might think of a keyword as redemption, which is interesting with these, especially this one here, yeah? Redemption instead of the heartbreak. It's the redemption that flows from perhaps a challenging situation. So we can become expressive, we can become adaptable, we can become versatile. All Mercurian, positive Mercurian attributes here in Libra. Now, because we have the third decan, Venus, the ruler of Libra, is now in the exaltation. Yes? So, Venus is exalted in Pisces, a water sign. So we have ideas of compassion here, understanding, insights, especially insights through empathy with other people. So maybe sometimes those swords in the heart, maybe that's not our heart, maybe it's the heart of another person that we can understand and understand their pain. Yes? Emotional intelligence. Not just the emotion, it's the emotional intelligence. What we have learned and how we have grown to be able to understand through our emotional experiences throughout our lives. And that emotional intelligence can be applied to thought. Yeah? Instead of thinking coldly and rationally, we think with emotional intelligence. And our perceptions are softened, but deepened with Venus in her exaltation in Pisces. The thinking Venus in the exaltation of Pisces, and I think I just heard her. So, I mean, I still have that impulse to Venus is a her, Jupiter is a him, yeah? But I'm trying to move myself away from gendering planets too much. Okay, so what question would I want to ask when these cards are upright? Well, how about, how can this insight that I am having be expressed or understood? And insights come from experience. So, experience leading to insight could be this card upright as well. Now, when these cards are reversed, now we can go into more of the challenging aspects, right? So when the card is reversed, think of critical fragmentation. Yeah? Our need to criticize starts to fragment our ability, our communicative skills and ability. We pick things apart too much. We might still have strong intuition, but it could fail because we think we know better. Yeah? Our intuition is suppressed by our, nope, I know differently. Nope, 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 nope. Imagine this being intuition coming up and this being a rational mind saying, nope, I know different, I know different, I know different. There's a need for discipline here. Instead of being disciplined, there's a need for it, which means that we're either desperately seeking it or we are lacking it. Yes? This card reverse could be naivete or gullibility. It could also indicate fickle relationships. Yeah, I know it's not the relationship card, but our minds do not allow us to settle down into one relationship or to maintain a relationship. Friendship relationship, romantic relationship, business relationship, whatever. Now, because this is an reversed card, in the third decan we have a fall. So Venus in Venus's fall falls into Virgo. Yeah, the opposite of Pisces is Virgo. Which is interesting because Virgo is the exaltation of Mercury, and this decan is keyed to Mercury, but right now we're thinking of Venus in the fall. So what do we have? We have overanalysis of feelings. Yeah? What is this feeling? What is it that I'm feeling? Why am I feeling it? Why did I get here? How did I get here? What does this mean for my life? And the litany of questions, right? Also, our thoughts can dissect our emotions. Think of those swords in the Smith-Waite deck, not being the thing stabbing our heart, but us stabbing our emotions to dissect them, yeah? Maybe it's critique, just to tear things apart instead of to synthesize, to bring things together. Maybe there's a loss of emotional perspective. Remember, air is perspective, right? Our emotional perspective is lost when these are reversed. So a question I might ask is, what is fragmenting my understanding? What is slicing my understanding heart to pieces? And that doesn't necessarily have to mean always heartbreak. It could be other things. It could be myself. I could be stabbing myself and tearing my own understanding apart. Yes, because the heart is not only about our romance, right? The heart is also about our emotions more generally, and it could also be the seat of understanding as opposed to knowledge. Knowledge, understanding, you can think of it that way as well. Does that make sense? Okay, so on from the rainy, stabby heart of the Three of Swords in the Smith-Waite deck to the fours. Now, fours are associated with, are the beginning of the associations to the fixed signs. So these cards are now associated with Aquarius, the first decan of Aquarius, and Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. So we have fixed heirs, vital attributes entering our reading through these cards. And you think of fixed thoughts, well, that looks like a pretty good depiction of a fixed thought, right? Stable thoughts, grounded thoughts, thoughts that have containers. Pretty good depiction of it, right? So, we might give the idea of mental containment to these cards. And yet, even though we might be mentally contained, we might still want new experiences. Yeah? Aquarians like to break from tradition. We might want to try new ways of approaching things, of understanding things. We might rebel against materialism. Remember, heirs, what? Air is ill-dignified with earth. So, earth materialism, the rational rebellion against materialism. That might be a way to remember that. Our understanding of things could be both scientific and spiritual in these cards. And especially things of nature and of destiny. We're thinking about what destiny is, what direction we're going in, and the nature of ourselves and the nature of our environments and the nature of nature might be informed by both spiritual and scientific understanding. We are fixed, remember, this is a fixed sign. We are fixed and fixated on what is right. And we will not submit blindly to authority. Now, that's what you think. Could be something that this card is telling us. There's originality here. Now, because it's Saturn, maybe the unconventionality that we often associate with Aquarius might be a little lessened, because Saturnian Aquarius likes structure, but still, there might be some unconventionality. There might be a broad-minded attitude towards life, but also realistic, because Saturn, right? We will stick to a cause beyond everyone else. Once we have gotten a cause in our grasp, even though other people fall by the wayside, we're still going with this card. Now, Saturn here in its domicile gives us mental structures, gives us a thought system which is stable, gives us detachment that enables clarity. It's not detachment to remove ourselves from understanding or to remove ourselves from looking at something. It's detachment, especially emotional detachment, to find clarity in a situation, in a relationship, in business, in whatever. And we are maybe intent on imposing order on ideas. Yeah? Order is really important for Saturn, right? Now, a lot of us have a really, really Debbie Downer impression of Saturn, but order, structure, boundaries, rules are all very, very beneficial until they become overwhelming and stifling. But until that point, they're beneficial. Do you want people to be driving on the road in any direction that they want? Yeah, some people drive on the left, some people drive on the right, some people stop at stop signs, some people don't stop at stop signs. People do whatever they want. Now, we want those rules in the proper places, and Saturn gives us those rules. So, yay Saturn, right? Okay, so a question I might ask for these cards when they are upright is, what thought needs to be held steady? What idea? What concept, what understanding needs to be held steady? Now, when the cards are reversed, however, we might find ourselves socially isolated. One of the negative things about Aquarians is that they're not all that touchy-feely, and an extreme form of the negative side of Aquarius could be isolation. Which you can see that in especially this card. We could also become intellectually arrogant, on the other hand, which could cause isolation, right? The arrogant people don't tend to have a lot of really close, intimate friends. Stubbornness, cynicism might be these cards when reversed. Now, we also have Saturn, the ruler of Aquarius, now in its similar, which means on the other side of the ladder of lights. So instead of being in Aquarius, Saturn is now in Capricorn. But this is airy Saturn in an earth sign. So there is discomfort there. So our thoughts turn rigid. We also might feel a mental burden, yeah? Now, I'm not talking the burden of the tens, which are coming later on in the suit, but still, there could be a mental burden here. Could be overemphasis on duty, now that Saturnian stuff, or obligation. There could be restlessness under pressure. Yeah, we feel the obligation, we feel the duty, and that could make us feel antsy. My airy self wants to escape the heaviness of this earth. Yes? A question I might want to ask when these cards are reversed is, what has mental holding, where has my mental holding become a strain or become rigidity? Where have I become intellectually, mentally rigid? Or where am I starting to feel mental fatigue because of the way I am using my mind? Yeah? Does that make sense? So, the fours. Yeah, we're moving away from that boxed-in guy in the coffin to this guy standing up in the field. And then the Tarot de Marseille version. So, second decan of Aquarius. So that means we have the mutable aspect of fixed heirs, vital attributes entering our spread, entering our reading. Which means this decan is keyed to Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. So we have Mercury in Aquarius. So when these cards are upright, now this really looks like a nasty card, especially in the Smith-Waite version, right? When this card is upright, we could have challenged detachment. Now the Aquarian desire to be detached becomes challenged by its mercurial aspects. Flittering about. Yes? And still, on the positive side, remember these are upright, we could have quick intuitive minds. Yes? And our intuition gives us original ideas, especially about science or occult studies. Yeah? In both realms, the material and the spiritual. Our minds are adaptable, that mutable aspect, right? And we have intense curiosity and a desire to know and understand. Those mercurial qualities have entered our progressive Aquarian framework. So maybe inspiration, mental inspiration, could be a word to attach to these cards. Might be eager. That eagerness could overflow into nervousness or excitability, especially in the mental sphere. And because of that, we might become a little bit tactless, When trying to satisfy our curiosity overrides our social skill of knowing when we're asking the question at the right time, right? And to the right people. And then we could get bored when we get our answers. Yeah? So what? Tell me. You told me. Oh, okay, never mind. Okay, that's fine. Let's move on. Squirrel. Yeah? And still there's a nonconformist aspect to these cards. Now, we have a complement here because it's the second decan. So Saturn's complement, remember Saturn is paired with the sun and the moon. So the same side as Aquarius is Cancer. So this is now I'm Saturn in Cancer. So what does that give us? Well, our thoughts are forced to acknowledge our feelings. Yeah? We're forced to acknowledge our emotional state. Cancer being water, emotional, yes? Maybe our mental defenses are being tested here. Maybe our structures, our Saturnian structures, are being challenged by our vulnerability. Cancers do have the shell, but there's vulnerability inside that shell. So maybe that is being tested. I mean, that vulnerability is testing the structures we've established with Saturn in Aquarius. And that could lead to some cognitive discomfort. Yeah? Because we're being challenged. That's uncomfortable mentally. And so a question I might ask for these cards upright is, what conflict or pressure is testing my thinking? So it's not necessarily the winning but at what cost card right now. It's what is uncomfortable? What is testing or challenging my thoughts and my attitudes and my understandings and my beliefs, right? Or am I being so inquisitive that I'm driving other people away? So now let's look at these two cards when they are reversed. Yes, reversed. We now might come to an ego-driven conflict, which is perhaps more the way we would often read the Five of Swords and the Smith-Waite card. Yeah, our ego-driven conflicts. We might be dismissive of other people's feelings. We might have radical stubbornness. Not just stubborn, not just very stubborn, but radically stubborn. Radical in both sense of the word. Radical as in beyond the bounds, but also maybe deep, foundationally stubborn. Yes? We could, now, Aquarians are intellectually humanitarians, right? Social justice. When the card is reversed, we could get the idea of being so focused on humanity as a impersonal concept that we forget the people that are right there in front of our eyes. Now that we don't give attention to the individual people when we think of the large context of social issues. And so there is now a social disconnect because we're looking at such a big, broad spectrum that the one-on-one or one-on-intimate group aspects are lost to us. Now, here, when the card is reversed, Saturn is now in its detriment. Yes, it's detriment. So instead of being in Cancer, it is now in Leo. Saturn in Leo. Here we've got the ego again. Leo's ego, right? Disrupts our reasoning. Our minds, our rational capacities are disrupted by our egos. Our identity overwhelms our objectivity. Right? I am being me. Clouds our ability to objectively see what's actually going on. And mental conflicts can become personal here. Instead of just being a disagreement, that disagreement now becomes a personal wound, right? Grudges can be held. Revenge could be sought. And there's a breakdown of neutrality, of the potential for neutrality here, when the card is reversed. And those are more aspects of the way people generally tend to read the Smithwaite Five of Swords card, right? So those come out here in the reversal of the card. And the question I might ask when these cards are reversed is, what cognitive tension is being denied or internalized? Yeah, so instead of the pressure, the tension, testing my thinking, now I'm either denying it because of my own issues, my own ego drive, or I'm internalizing it, which we talked about with the mental conflict becoming personal, right? I'm internalizing it, and it's now affecting me and my ego inside of me, right? My ego is destabilized by conflict. Does that make sense? And so we could become reactive. So yes, I asked the question. And it's time to move on to the sixes. The scientific sixes, if you follow Thoth. So here we have the third decan of Aquarius. So we have the cardinal aspect of fixed heirs, vital attributes entering our reading, entering our spread. This decan is keyed to Libra, the Libra decan of Aquarius, which is ruled by, Libra is ruled by Venus, so we have Venus in Aquarius. And some words you might think of here are orderly tension. I'm sorry, not tension, transition, right? I should have gotten it right from that boat right there, right? Transition from one thing to another, but in an orderly way. We could have a strong desire to achieve worthwhile, scientific, social, humanitarian, or organizational goals. So what am I thinking? What does that mean? Yeah. Our goals in our studies, scientific, our goals in our interactions with other people, social, our goals in our search for justice and fairness and our humanitarian goals, and our goals in relationship to the work we do and the organizations that we engage in, organizational. We could have an interest in psychology, sociology, or other human relations studies. We could be extremely loyal and responsible in these cards. And maybe association, mental association is a keyword for this card upright. This is a card for diplomats, people who can mediate and get challenging situations solved. This is a card of genius and eccentricity, because they're both sides of one coin, right? And the highly nervous personality here. Now, wanting to move on, wanting to get going for the next thing because I'm uncomfortable in one place. Because this is the third decan, we have Saturn in its exaltation, which was Libra. So Saturn is exalted in Libra. This is also the Libra decan. This decan is keyed to Libra, so that's interesting. So Saturn in its exaltation of Libra gives us ordered, restored through balance. Libra likes balance. Saturn likes order. So order is restored through balance. Our thoughts are organized. And our transitions are structured. We have mental resolution. Yeah? We can resolve difficulties, but we also have resolve. Does that make sense, that difference in meaning? And our resolution comes through fairness. Yeah, we can resolve things through fairness, and also fairness gives us more sense of authority and mental resolve. And so a question I might ask for these cards when they're upright is, how can clarity and coherence be restored? How can my clarity and my coherence, mental coherence, coherence of ideas, coherence of thoughts and beliefs, how can that be restored? Which is good after the fives, right? Now, when these cards are reversed, we have maybe the idea of impulsive disruption. Instead of orderly transition, we have impulsive disruption. What does that mean? Well, we could become emotionally cold. We might be afraid of committing ourselves to other people, to ideas, to organizations, to projects. Because independence is all important now. Our unconventionality can alienate people. We can push people away. And we can become inconsistent. And our inconsistency can vacillate between intense interest and complete withdrawal in either a person, a relationship, a project, whatever. We vacillate between intense interest and total withdrawal, which is unsettling for other people. And we do it without any warning. And so people are like, wait a second, what happened? Just a moment ago, you were totally into this, or into me. Or, wait a second, what's happening? You had no interest 5 seconds ago, right? So we don't consider how our mind flips can freak other people out, and that pushes other people away. Now, because we have the card reversed instead of an exaltation, we have a fall. So Saturn falls in Aries. It's challenged and has to overcome this situation. So what happens? We can become impatient with the process. Now, Aries' desire to go, go, go gives impatience. Structure breaks down. Right? Maybe we come to rash conclusions. Not just quick, but rash. And our minds are agitated when this card is reversed. Yeah, instead of that orderly transition, it's mental agitation. And the question I might ask with these cards in reverse is, what unresolved thinking is persisting? What unresolved thinking persists in this situation, in this relationship, in this problem? Does that make sense? Okay, friends. So here we are with the sevens. Remember when I told you I love the seven of cups? That many people have a poor idea or poor not poor understanding, but their understanding is that it's a negative card, right? I also love the Seven of Swords. And I generally think of this card as a potentially very positive card. Not a very potentially positive, but a potentially very positive card of going your own way. But my ideas might be changing now. So let's see. Here we begin the mutable sign of Gemini. And it's the first decan. And Gemini is ruled by Mercury, so we have Mercury in Gemini. So what does that mean? Well, when the card is upright, and that guy is going off on his own with those 7 swords, we might have adaptable thinking. Yes? Geminis are known for diversity of thought, and in the positive sense, it becomes adaptable. We have good intellectual capacity. Yes? Quick perceptions. Mercury is quick. We're curious. We're inquiring. We ask a lot of questions. That could lead to nervousness or restlessness, but still, we're quick on our mental toes. We have insight here. Maybe not in-depth thinkers. Yeah, those leave the in-depth thinking to Aquarius and maybe Libra. We're not in-depth thinkers. We might skate over the surface. We might ski over the surface. But we do have insights. We're not stupid. Yeah? It's just we don't always go deep. Now, Mercury is now in its domicile, of course, of Gemini, so that gives us mental agility when these are upright. Information moves freely. We're good communicators, and we receive information very freely. Our perception shifts easily. Our ideas are explored rather than being fixed. Yeah, we don't necessarily go deep into our ideas, but we will explore what those ideas are, right? Still think surface, but we're exploring them, yeah? We're still able to explore them without going deep. And the question I might ask for these cards when upright is, what assumptions or strategy needs reconsideration? Because I'm not thinking too deeply. So it might need or might benefit from reconsidering my choices, reconsidering my assumptions and my strategies and my plans that might ask for some deeper thought, which will help maybe give us deeper insights. Yes? When the cards are in reverse, maybe our thinking is over precise. Instead of skimming the surface, skating over the surface, maybe our precision, which is generally beneficial, can be going overboard. Do you remember Star Trek? Do you remember Dr. Spock? Do you remember sometimes his need for precision of thought could become a block? If you do, that might help you out here. That need for precision could cause, because it's Mercury, some vacillation, right? Indecisiveness, getting scattered. Maybe our skimming the surface, our skating over the surface becomes superficiality. No depth, not just lacking depth, but no depth of thought or knowledge. Maybe our opinions are unreliable because there's no deep inquiry into them. Yeah? Maybe that nervousness I was talking about when the card is upright becomes anxiety. Maybe this is the portal to anxiety. Or we might be using our cleverness to ill devices, for ill purposes. Yeah? Our wit could be used to manipulate people or to spread rumors with this card in reverse. When it is in reverse, we now have Mercury in its similar. So we have airy Mercury now in an earthy sign of Virgo. So our thoughts become narrow. Instead of wide, they become narrow, narrow-mindedness. Maybe there's an excessive focus on correctness. This has to be right. And because it has to be right, maybe we'd never get anywhere because it's not right yet. It's not right yet. It's not right yet. Right? 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 Maybe we're fixated on details. That doesn't mean depth of thought by any means. It's just being fixated on details. And maybe because of that, we lose our flexibility. Mercury's agile, flexible way of thinking is lost in this earthy environment. Now, Mercury, when it's in its domicile of Virgo, doesn't have that problem. Yeah, it's organized. Put these things in the right places. But here, the airy aspect of Mercury now loses its natural flexible abilities. So a question I might ask when these cards are reversed is, what mental avoidance is undermining my clarity? What avoidance of depth of thought and understanding is undermining my ability to see things clearly and understand things clearly? Does that make sense? Yeah, and you think of this guy in upright skimming the surface, but when it's reversed, all of those swords come crashing. What? He's not able to hold those swords because gravity is pulling them out of his hand. Over here, right? So there's lacking clarity. Those thoughts just drop to no effect. It's not gaining depth or insight, it's just loss. Yes? Okay, so let's move on to the eights. Yes, the eights. The lady in bound and blindfolded here. But now, the second decan gives us the cardinal aspect of mutable errors, vital attributes entering our spread. And there could be some challenges there. The cardinal aspect of mutability could pose a little bit of a challenge, even when the card is upright. But let's see how much of a challenge. So, because this card is keyed to Venus, because this card points to the second decan keyed to Venus, we have Venus in, where was I? In Gemini, Venus in Gemini. And that means what? Well, you can think of open ambiguity. Now there's ambiguity, but we're okay with that. And because of that, we have diplomatic skills. We have some charm. We have some persuasiveness. Venus, right, is here in Gemini. We can consider other people's ideas impartially. We can understand both sides. Yeah, this is the Libra decan, right? Balance both sides. We can understand both sides. There's a faithfulness here. But there could be some mental indecisiveness because, again, Libras are not the best at making always the best at making decisions, right? Considering too many things. We want to know others' thoughts. We want to know what other people are thinking. And we might be swayed by whoever those people are at the moment. So we want to know what other people are thinking. We find out and we might be swayed by their opinion because their opinion is important to us, which is why we're asking or we're trying to find out in the first place. And here Venus because it's in Gemini, there might be a dislike of routine work, right? Now, because it's the second decan, we have Mercury in its complement, which is Pisces. Yes, Mercury's complement is Pisces. Mercury's partner is Jupiter, same side as where are we? We're in Gemini, that is Pisces. So when Mercury is in Pisces, we have awareness of ambiguity. Yeah, that those broad waters are okay for us and we can be aware of that. Broad waters of Pisces. Our thoughts could be influenced by emotion or by symbol. Yeah, Pisces is a very symbolic zodiacal sign. We might be able to hold multiple interpretations in our minds at the same time. Yes? At the same time, our boundaries of thought could become more permeable. Different thoughts are able to seep into our mental sphere more easily than other people and other air signs and other decans of other air signs. Yes? So a question I might ask with this card when it's upright is, what deliberate mental effort is required here? Yeah? Maybe we might want or need to have some more boundaries. Maybe we might need to be a little less permeable. We might need to be a little less invested in what other people think. So what mental effort is required now? Now, when this card is reversed, what do we get? We have, instead of open ambiguity, we turn it down, upside down into dogmatic thinking. Dogmatic thinking. So, even though we might become dogmatic, we still get scared of being trapped intellectually. Yes? You can see that a lot of people read this card as being mentally trapped, right? Well, think of that trapped quality as being the card in reverse. We could also, on the other hand, lose interest when novelty has worn off. Yeah, we find something new, we get really, really interested in it, mentally especially, and then we start to learn about it and we start to understand it. That, oh, okay, that was good. Next, squirrel, right? Another squirrel card. We could be sending out mixed messages, right? Mercury is communicative, very rapid fire, but not necessarily one message, right? Many messages, conflicting messages when the card is reversed, yes? Maybe we're afraid that things are better somewhere else. Yeah, the grass is always greener on the other side idea could be when this card is reversed. Now, in reversal, Mercury is now in its detriment. So we have airy Mercury in fiery Sagittarius. And so there could be an overgeneralization. Yeah, those thoughts could be lit up by the fire of Sagittarius, and we overgeneralize. Our rigid beliefs could override any nuances. Yes, that is true, but in this case, in these situations with these kinds of people, all of that is gone. It's just the rigid belief. Our thoughts narrow into doctrine when this card is reversed. Get that trapped feeling again, yes? And we lose our curiosity. So that woman bound up there who could possibly take the blindfold off doesn't, because she loses her curiosity because she's so bound up in the thoughts that she already has. Does that make sense? And so when these cards are reversed, we might ask the question, where is thought misplaced, or where is my thought looping, going over and over and over and over and over again? Yeah, am I trapped in a thought loop? Where, and if so, where? Or where are my thoughts being put in the wrong direction? Where am I bound up, or where am I misplaced? Does that make sense? Okay, now we have the nines. Remember the nightmare nines? That card especially, that's what we think of. Let's see if we still think that. Here we have the third decan of Gemini. So we have heightened mental clarity. Why? Because this is the third decan of, where are we? Gemini. The third decan of Gemini. It's keyed to Saturn. It's keyed to Aquarius. So Saturn is the ruler of Aquarius. So we have Saturn in Gemini, which could give us heightened mental clarity. Maybe we have startling or intuitive insights with this card upright. And maybe those insights could also become solutions to problems, or could be the solutions to problems. This is a card for reason and reasoning. Our intelligence is both organized and intuitive. Saturn's organization. But intuition springs up through Gemini. We have that Aquarian sense of universal and humanitarian outlooks on life. But those could be influenced by our friends and associates, yes? We might lack the groundedness of fixed air with Aquarius because it's in cardinal air with Gemini. So the people around us could influence us, perhaps too much. We might lack some mental grounding. Not necessarily a horribly negative thing, but something to be aware of. And that influence could be positive, but it could be negative. It could be beneficial, it could be unbeneficial. We could become eccentric or unpredictable, or on the other hand, reserved and serious in this card, upright. And we might not get interested in frivolous small talk. Yeah? If it's just, how's the weather, how's it going kind of stuff, we might lose. One of the favorite colleagues I've had recently would totally fit in this description. Yeah? Absolutely hates frivolous small talk. So that would be a card for him. Now here, the third decan, we have Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, in its exaltation, which is in Virgo. So our awareness becomes acute here. Our thoughts could also be critical and identify flaws. Our mental focus is sharpened, which is beneficial for Geminis, if you ask me. And we gain clarity through precision. Now remember, we've had another card in which our precision becomes a detriment. Here, it's a benefit. Our precision allows for clarity. It's Spock on a good day instead of a bad day. Dr. Spock from Star Trek, remember? So the question I might ask is, what idea or worry has reached its limit? Now, I've been thinking, and I've been thinking deep, I've been thinking precisely. I don't want to go into that negative aspect. So what idea, what thought process, what worry has reached its limit beyond its benefit? Sometimes worries can be beneficial as long as it doesn't become a debilitating worry. Or sometimes there are times when our worries become preventative medicine. Yes? If that, now you might say, well, we need a different word for that. Okay, so then maybe it's not worry, maybe it's something else. If you come up with a better word for worry, let me know in the comments below. Good. So the question did the question. Let's look at the card in reverse. Now this might be where we get that common way of reading the Nine of Swords, of nightmares, and let's find out. So when the card is reversed, what do we have? We might have mental rigidity and fear of being misunderstood or looking stupid, unintelligent. We might be struggling to express our ideas in verbal speech or in writing. Yeah, writer's block could be this card as well. And think of a writer trying to get to sleep, just sitting up in bed and, yeah? That frustration over inability to communicate. Our tendency towards sarcasm could become harsh, and we could become overly skeptical in this card. Now here we have Mercury, third decan, in its fall, which is Mercury in Pisces, airy Mercury in Pisces. So, what does that mean? It could be mental overwhelm. That's the way we often see this card, right? Our boundaries between our thoughts dissolve. So there's that mental, not breakdown, but dissolution. Dissolving, dissolution. I'm probably not saying that correctly. And because our thoughts are no longer well contained and categorized, that could cause anxiety because of that diffusion. And we can have difficulty distinguishing signal information from general noise, the chatter around us, right? Which could give us that experience of, does that make sense? And so a question I might ask is, what thinking refuses to resolve or release? Now, sometimes we need our thoughts to resolve themselves into some clarity, right? But now it's not happening. Our clarity is not resolving, like a lens resolving a clear image, or releasing. So we're stepping up to the boundary right here between 9s and 10s in that question, right? So let's move on to the 10s. 10s. Now you recall I'm approaching 10s differently, definitely differently from the Golden Dawn, but also differently from other readers, because for me 10s have now become the point of saturation that is also a liminal space between moving on or collapse. Yeah? So think of it as a pressure cooker that can no longer differentiate itself. It's all just contained and bouncing around. So somehow that pressure has to release. It has to either transform or move on, or clarify or crystallize. So what does that mean for air? So when these cards are upright, our thought has penetrated everything. There's nowhere else for our thoughts to go. There's no further articulation that can be possible. There's no more to say about what we're thinking. We've said it all. And maybe that meaning collapses into silence or to rest. Now you've said all that you could possibly say in a conversation. You've thought all that you can possibly think about something, and it collapses either into silence or into taking a break, stopping, resting. Does that make sense? There's a pressure here towards stopping the thought, stopping the communication, or to reassessing and re-perceiving what we're perceiving. Yes? So instead of like the thought that calling this the ruin card, it's cognitive exhaustion. And so when these cards are upright, we could ask, what cognitive field is exhausted and must reset? Now, when your computer is frozen, you've got to hit that reset button, right? Restart, reboot. That could be this, right before you hit that could be this card. Now, what happens when these cards are reversed? Well, we still have air having completed its pattern, right? Having completed its work. It's gone to the limits. The story is finished. We can't say anything more. Our thoughts, our logic, our perceptions, our communication have reached a threshold, and mental release is called for, but it's blocked somehow when this card is reversed. That release is we're unable to release. Why? Well, maybe we keep circling what is already clear. We just keep circling it and circling it. The more I think about it, there's got to be something else has got to happen. Something else has got to happen. But we've already done all of the thinking that's possible. We've already done all the talking that's possible. But we keep going over and over and over and over it, right? That could be the 10. Maybe instead, things that have been settled are reopened. Let's dive back into this, right? Think of psychoanalysis, yeah? Talk therapy, where you keep going over the same trauma over and over and over and over again. At the beginning, there could have been some potential help, but after the 50th, 100th time, that could be that, yeah? Maybe we start questioning what we already know in this card, reversed. Maybe the story has reached an end, but we keep trying to restart the story. So it's not confusion, it's not exhaustion, it's resistance to there being an end and going on, right? So maybe we have attachment to a finished thought that we can't let go and let move on, yes? Or let it be expressed. Now maybe we're not expressing it because we keep thinking about it and thinking about it. It's not ready, it's not ready, it's not ready, it's not ready. We could have difficulty letting the truth stand as it is. We got to keep explaining it and keep rationalizing it and keep, well, you see, don't you see? Don't you see? And that causes us intellectual fatigue. But we mask that over as, but I'm analyzing. Right? And there's a refusal to let the story end, whatever that story is. So the question I might ask is, what conclusion has already been reached but not accepted? Yes? Am I resisting the understanding that we have reached fullness? Or am I refuting it? Am I ignoring that it's ending, or am I refuting it? Does that make sense? So, friends, what do you think? What do you think about this new arc over of progression over the suit of swords? When the cards are upright, do you see more positive attributes that you can incorporate in your reading? That's what I'm going to try and do. And still, there are times when cards are going to be appearing in challenge or in shadow or whatever we want to call those positions, in which case I'll definitely go with the reversed, even if I don't shuffle reversals into my deck. Yes? Okay, friends. I hope this lightens our understanding of the swords without light washing them, without pretending that there is no dark side. I hope that gives more balance, I think, to the swords. And if you agree, again, please let me know in the comments below. And disagree. If you want to disagree, tell me. Tell me. I won't get angry. If you do it nicely. Okay, friends, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for walking this journey with me. And now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.